So when I pastored in Hungary, I pastored 2 churches. About a few years into our church plant, we planted a daughter church, a sister church in another town, but it was very different demographically, right? So the first town I was in Eger, very much like a middle class, very, Hungarians are highly educated people. And so that was the demographic, mostly educated, middle class Hungarian people who live in the city. And then we planted this second church, and it was in a very poor community, and most of the people there, ethnically Roma, many of them didn't know how to read. And so when we would, and where the church met was in this space that didn't have any chairs. So literally everybody stood the entire service. And I realized once when I was preaching from my manuscript to those people, I was preaching in Hungarian, that there was a major disconnect, right? I'm losing them.
Yeah.
In Eger, with the educated crowd, that worked really well.
Yeah.
And they were used to that kind of thing. I realized when I went to the other town, it's called Heves, I would teach the same message, but no notes. Just take my Bible and speak to them, look in their eyes and talk to them. And, it wasn't as polished, but it was much more effective.
Yeah. And I think that's the reason Haddon encourages that. That's the reason I encourage my students is when you can just look at people, this, you've owned the message is owned you. Now you can just talk to people about it. It isn't always as polished. You likely are going to forget 15 to 20% of what you prepared, but you're going to make more of an impact. And people are going to, in fact, Haddon for his doctoral project did all this study on this, that people tend to remember about 75 to 80% more of what you say when you preach with little to no notes.
Wow.
And that's the motivation behind it. So anyhow, we got off track on Matthew, but I do think that's important homiletical stuff.
Absolutely. So. Yeah. Thank you.